So when I was up here in Toronto, up meaning north, I went on Netflix and I started to watch Taxi Driver, and it's been taking me like 2 days to get through the movie because I've now become fascinated with every location. Because it's actually the New York that I first saw. Like the first time I went to New York was in the early 70s, if you can believe it. My dad had some sort of business or something, and we went down there. The World Trade Center was probably just finished. I want to say it was like 1973, maybe. I was like, 4 or 5 years old. And I came down here, and it was all the big cars, the old school, taxi cabs. And I was just thinking, that's like, Jimmy Coonan, Mickey Featherstone were running wild in Hell's Kitchen, and the Five Families were dealing with these upstarts. All of that was like starting to happen, and I think Mickey Spillane at that point, I think he got whacked. I can't remember, but John Gotti was on his way up. George Steinbrenner had just bought the Yankees, and they were going to redo Yankee Stadium, and the New York Yankees were going to play in Shea Stadium for 2 years. That's when they took that iconic, really sad photo of, I always thought, of Joe DiMaggio standing in Yankee Stadium, and behind it they were remodeling it. And it was just really like the end of an era. Joe Namath, at that point, might have been on the Rams or on his way to the Rams. I can't remember. But he's definitely, was a couple of knee operations in. The Big Bad Bruins were the Big Bad Bruins. The Flyers were coming. It's so fucking nuts to think about all of that. And Brad Park had a rivalry with Bobby Orr. That's the New York I was in. It was right around the time when Zeppelin played The Song Remains the Same. I actually went to fucking New York. So I ended up finding this, incredible, and probably Martin Scorsese was probably just shooting Mean Streets right around that time. And I was actually fucking there, if you can believe it. So, it's not why if you guys could, but why would you believe it? For me, it was nuts. I just wish I could remember some, it. So I only had like a few little snapshot memories of it. So, what was my point here? Oh, my point was I ended up, through looking at the locations of Taxi Driver, one of the things that he shows was this classic bar called the Terminal Bar, which was across the street from the Port Authority. And it was known as the toughest bar in New York City. Had a bunch of lunatic Irish guys in there, like fights all the time. And then over time, it gradually became a gay bar, particularly with black men. And this bartender worked there for 10 years, and he just took these amazing close-up photos, black and white photos of all the regulars. And the bar ended up closing in 1982. And the bartender's like nephew or something thought the photos were fascinating, and he interviewed the guy. And it's such an amazing, it's like a 22-minute documentary. Just look up Terminal Bar documentary. I think I forget the name of it. It's probably just called the Terminal Bar. I can't remember. But I watched this documentary, and what's really amazing, especially if you're an aspiring filmmaker and you don't have a lot of money, if you see what they do with just music and movement of the camera in those photos, in one interview, what they make, it's a masterpiece. 22 minutes. It's absolutely incredible. And then also, it gives you a glimpse into where New York was. Like, here's another thing, too. I was in New York when fucking David Berkowitz was still walking around. How nuts is that? You start to think of some of that shit. How crazy that was. John Lennon was still alive. I mean, it was a fucking, like, that part of New York, you know. And also, if I think of the music, like, probably CBGB's was just taking off. Like, all of that crazy shit was going on. And I was somehow in that city when all of that shit was happening. I just think that that's amazing. And it's sort of my favorite time of New York City to me is the 1970s. Even though, you know, the city was going bankrupt and all of that type, there was something about it in the movies and shit that they made back then that I loved. But you should check out this documentary. Just look up the Terminal Bar documentary. It's only like 25 minutes long. But if you just want to catch a glimpse of what New York was like back then, or if, like I said, if you're an aspiring filmmaker, you should